Going to the cinema has become a very common part of modern day life. However, how much do we really know about the technical and historical aspects of the films we're entertained by? German Expressionism in film. Many directors of today are heavily influenced by it and use its various techniques and themes in their productions. But before we go delving into these intricate aspects, we must first understand the motivation behind this style's formation. Through the late 1800s and early 1900s, cinema was greatly dominated by French and Italian directors. Prior to this, the main form of entertainment was through the theatre. Therefore, when camera equipment was introduced, recordings of theatrical shows were transmitted to the people. Yet, over time, audiences wanted a more intimate experience of the shows they were watching. So, the Italian and French directors started making shows and films covering the genres of drama, crime, and comic. It became very regular for the camera movement and angles in these shows to be very mundane or even still. This was due to the oversized cameras of this time period being far too difficult for much movement. Also, with their lighting not being as technically advanced as it is today, a majority of films were forced into having bland and washed out visuals. The commencement of World War I. It would see the transformation of cinema, the birth of German Expressionism. During this time, a great deal of footage became solely fixated on national propaganda, recruitment, and on-scene footage. With these forms of media overly portraying the unstable political environment and the industrial growth, while also desensitizing their audiences of violence through footage of warfare, many people, especially German directors, began to witness a mass dehumanization of man. As the First World War came to a close and Germany faced defeat, the Treaty of Versailles had significant repercussions throughout the nation. This was seen greatly through popular films made throughout Europe not being imported into Germany. Therefore, this spurred the creative minds of German directors such as Fritz Lang to start creating films, not only for their country's entertainment, but to also address surrounding social issues. In 1927, one of Lang's initial and most spectacular examples of German Expressionist film, Metropolis, was released. Metropolis was set in a technologically advanced yet socially corrupt future. This dystopian setting allowed Lang to inject a call for realization and change towards the viewers. This was one of many German Expressionist concepts that heavily influenced later films, such as Ridley Scott's 1982 cult classic of Blade Runner. The decrease in value for life, mixed with a sense of paranoia toward industrialization shaping humans into somewhat robots, were overarching narrative conventions seen throughout various German Expressionist films. As the filming equipment of this time was only produced in black and white, the use of such contrasting by means of lighting, set, and costuming accentuated a depressive, mysterious, and grim nature of any darker subject matter. Also, physical exaggerations were utilized extensively, from jolted robot-like bodily movements to complete visual transformations to reveal an obvious representation. In Metropolis, the character of Maria, played by Bridget Helm, is replicated into a robot form, not only by a wicked scientist, Alfred Abel, but an obsessed and mad society. Even a large proportion of today's horror and sci-fi genres make great use of this narrative convention. It primarily initiated with Robert Wiene's dark masterpiece, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The concept was greatly accepted and embellished by local directors as it gave films the ability to truly make the audience question what defines and gives purpose to being human. In Blade Runner, the replicant's yearning for life and purpose is a clear example of this old technique still flourishing in the modern cinema.
Like tears in rain.
Furthermore, this can be acknowledged through the character of Jack Skellington in Tim Burton's claymation creation of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Jack, the Pumpkin King, have grown so tired of the same old thing.
Burton admits to being heavily influenced by a vast multitude of German Expressionist techniques, especially so in The Nightmare Before Christmas, as over time these distorted techniques began to shape the genre we know as horror. This can be gathered from his use of high light and dark contrast, the socially disrupt setting of Halloween Town, physical exaggerations and distortions, and visual transformations. However, even further techniques drawn from the Expressionist movement were used to convey this dark sense of fear, such as the tendency to avoid parallel lines to use odd-shaped polygons, and the use of silhouettes and shadowing. Both can be seen to be derived from films such as Friedrich Murnau's 1922 thriller Nosferatu and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Even though a great deal of classics from the likes of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho can be seen using these techniques for horrific themes, it is due to films like Fritz Lang's M that combine these with a sense of mystery, an anti-hero, and very intricate lighting techniques to initiate what would later form into film noir. Humphrey Bogart was an initial example of an anti-hero in Maltese Falcon. This goes also for Fred MacMurray in Bill Wilder's 1944 hit, Double Indemnity. Both these films were early results of German actors and filmmakers escaping the effects of World War II and influencing American cinema with such expressionist styles.
How's this? What's this?
Without this, films like Blade Runner would not possess its crisp noir features, from the strong contrast in foreground and background lighting to Deckard being a clear anti-hero. Collectively, modern cinematography, from the themes of horror to noir, have been extensively shaped and influenced thanks to the legacy of the German Expressionist movement flourishing back then and today.